discussion. We are having a panel discussion right now, right here, and I promise you we'll get back to Cecilia, please. She'll be moderating the panel discussion on technologies for the better future, and I will help her out with the members of this discussion. Please, Cecilia, take place there. Far right, the far right wing. And as follows, please welcome Anna Ramata-Stunda, co-founder and CEO of Alternative Plants. Please welcome with applause. Technologies for a better life. Jānis, Jātnieks, founder and CEO of Wide. Yeah, Wide. Wide. Thank you. Please take your seat by your name. Juris Pūce, founder of Smart Streets, pioneer of artificial intelligence in Latvia. Please welcome. And finally, Liene, Rubina, head of IdeaLAB from Riga Technical University. Please welcome. Cecilia, floor is yours, and yes, you are allowed to begin, please.
Hi. Okay. I think we're going to start with a quick introduction, 3 minutes each, of what you guys do. Yep. Yes?
Yes, please.
Yes. So do you guys have presentations? Yep. Yes?
Can we go to the stage?
Yes.
Go to the stage?
Yes, please.
We have a clicker. Okay.
The clicker was over there. Sorry.
Again, suppose I'm the first one. And so, my name is Anna. I founded a biotech startup, Alternative Plants, that is tackling the production, sustainable production of active ingredients from plants that are totally inaccessible today. So I'm a biologist, and I see biology not only as a discipline of science, but as a life all around us, as a knowledge about life and how living systems interact with each other. And I know that this knowledge of interactions of the living systems can be used for us to tackle all the main global challenges we're having today, from growing population and food scarcity to sustainable production and climate change. But many of the resources that can be used for biotechnological production of novel, effective products are actually unknown. They're hidden treasures hiding in the nature, maybe hiding inside our own bodies, but inaccessible today. So we biologists are actually kind of hunters, treasure hunters. But this hunt for the treasure usually involves not indulging in such a nice environmental landscapes, but indulging in the code. The universal DNA code, that is a software of biology that programs life. And having the ability today to read the biological code, the code of life, allows us to mimic biological systems in laboratory and to use such biological systems to test novel products and to develop novel products and to develop cells and living organisms as a sustainable manufacturing factories that can be more effective than the technologies we use today. For example, in the picture you see here, it's in our laboratory. We are working with bioengineered living human skin tissues. We do not need to use human volunteers to test pharmaceutically active cosmetic ingredients that can be used in our skin. We can test the safety and efficacy of novel products and novel compounds in such highly reproducible systems that will be the same today as tomorrow or after a year to repeat the experiments. And it's more sustainable, it's less resource demanding than the testing as had been done before. But in vitro or in glass, in laboratory, we can do other things. What my company is doing, we are establishing plant stem cell cultures from medicinal plants that are rare and endangered. They're hiding deep in the forest, but they're very valuable in producing specific active ingredients. So my team is actually a solar farmers. We're not farming plants using land and using resources of water, energy, habitats. We're farming plants in the laboratory. And those are plant stem cells that we're able to grow in the lab very highly efficiently. And we can use very simple but smart modifications in the way how we grow them to boost the production of very valuable antioxidants that currently we're producing for cosmetic industry, but there's a high potential to use those for functional foods, medical devices, biomaterials, and medicine as well. So I today introduce you to get to know better with the solar farming, to use these technologies for more efficient and more sustainable production of the products we're using today and will use in the future. Thank you.
Wow. Super interesting. We're going to talk more about that. Next up, we have Jānis.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jānis, and I'm founder and CEO of a company called Wide. So Wide is not just me. It's the team that you see in the picture. It's a team of prosthetic and orthotic specialists. It's a team of 3D printing engineers and of business people. And we all come from a background of industrial 3D printing that we started about 5 years ago. And roughly 3 years ago, somebody came into our office and asked if we can 3D print a prosthetic hand, and what we thought is going to be a piece of cake task because we can print airplane parts, why couldn't we print a prosthetic? It's all spiraled into the fact that we researched what prosthetic and orthotic industry is all about and how much digital technologies are used in this industry, and we understood that the software solutions behind all of this industry are outdated. So we built our own software solution that is one of the fastest solutions to build an orthotic for a foot. It's about 15 times faster than anything else, and we can make a 3D printable design in about 5 to 10 minutes, and we don't even need a professional 3D modeling expert to do that. So how we're building our business, we're building it in a way that is a digital P&O or prosthetic and orthotic clinic. Anybody has the chance to log into our platform, upload a 3D scan of their limb, and we would print the product out in one of our locations around Europe. So we print the closest to home, but we do all the IP and engineering here in Riga. I would like to finish off with a quote that I usually use. In about 5 years, most of the prosthetic and orthotic centers around the globe will have the 3D printing and 3D modeling and 3D scanning capabilities. But in 5 years' time, some of those P&O centers will already have 5 years' experience working with these technologies. And this is how we work, and this is what we want to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have Juris. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so roll on. Yeah, my name is Juris. I mean, pioneer is a harsh term, a little bit too harsh, I think, anyway. But long story short, we ended up in artificial intelligence, machine learning, machine vision things by accident. Accident which happened back in 2011, when we were invited by a local railroad to try to help them with automation of inspection tasks for railroad, which started as a simple kind of let's do software kind of project. Turned out in the end that we actually were capable of recognizing many different issues on the rail. And that in turn led us to become more or less a laboratory for basically almost anything which is machine vision, artificial intelligence, which also as a result turned into something else, which is not just cargo inspection, not just railroad inspection, but also other things. So right now we also have things like ability to recognize events on the street. So we are trying to help to make the city smarter, to get the data back from what's happening in the cities, in the shops, in the events, classification of information, and providing the valuable feedback to make actually our lives better. That's the main goal. That's about it. Thanks.
Last but not least, we have Liene.
Hello, everyone. I'm Liene Rubina, and I'm today representing Riga Technical University. And I believe most of you think that university is something about academia and about the students, and we also think like that. But in the same time, we have done some changes to make the ideation phase there, the mindset change there, and how we did it and what are we doing there. So first of all, there is design factory. It's not about only beautiful. It's about to bring together separate parties as industry, students, researchers, to really build things and work as a hands-on, which is extremely important. Then we have the playground for the students and the young entrepreneurs to help them out to try the idea, to test the idea, because I believe each of you has the question, what if I could be an entrepreneur? So just that's the right place where to test it. Then we have one more project, IdeaLAB, that is basically the bridge between industry challenges and student possibilities to solve that. And this is the process how to engage these two parties together and bring some new innovation there. We also are part of the AIT, the Climate Kick program, because we see that all the innovation should be with value. And there's around us a huge challenges, and maybe or bad can be smart, but in the same time, the climate is there and they're suffering to bring some new innovations there. So that's why we are the part of that, and we do a lot of projects to, through the education, through the innovations, to bring out the new solutions. The largest summer school education programs for professionals, because we want to educate people that they understand that it's important and they should care about that. Also, some challenge, very in small, limited time, is the Climate Tent for 24 hours, 130 cities brings together to, again, bring out some challenges about the smart pollutions and other topics. The Climate Launchpad, then the greenhouse, like a pre-incubator to help the companies or the young entrepreneurs, again, test their green ideas. And finally, accelerator. And it's beyond the Riga Technical University roof, I believe. Now it's an open innovation place for all of you and international local partners. And we believe that it's all about action or doing. So get it done, because hardware is simple. Data is beautiful, but you should somewhere put it in. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So this is actually my second time coming to Riga. I was here last year, and I'm super impressed. And this is also one of the reasons why I'm back, is seeing how the ecosystem have grown. And you know, Latvia is a relatively small country, and you guys have shown the amazing initiatives that are coming out of this ecosystem. So from an outsider perspective, I'd like to ask each of you guys maybe to share, because I do know that there are a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of budding startups in the audience. Maybe you guys can share, what is that, ingredient? What are those ingredients that make you guys successful, being unique as an ecosystem within Latvia? Do you guys want to share?
Well, I can start then if nobody else does.
Please.
Yeah, and from my perspective, I think there are a couple of benefits. I mean, one of the benefits actually of being a small country, in a way. Second benefit, I think, also is our ability of people to be mostly innovative, and a lot of people are actually very technical. So I think that also helps. That would help any place, to be honest. And of course, I mean, and also, of course, being able to produce people from universities who are willing, who have the ability to do something, or willingness to do something, which is even more important at some point. So I think these are some of the key ingredients. Not necessarily all of them, but there must be other ideas as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of talk about, being very Silicon Valley focused, and what I am really happy to hear that a lot of what you guys do is very much based on the local talents, the local technologies, and the support from the government. So yeah, this is really, really interesting. And I'm also really impressed to see how this is not just one domain, coming from life sciences to hardware to software, all the way to community, that you guys are able to build this ecosystem within the country. Do you want to share from the life science perspective, which is very, very different from software and hardware?
Well, actually, being in a small country, it's, I would agree that we have great human resources and we have potential to develop ourselves within the company, within the ecosystem, this human resources. There is an enthusiasm from young entrepreneurs, from my team members, I see that. The other thing is that being small allows us to be flexible. But still, the main emphasis from my point of view would be a team, and I'm lucky that I managed to build a very successful team, because I believe in every business the key to success is a team that trusts each other. The team can talk, share opinions, fight about opinions maybe sometimes, and to have the same vision, to know who is doing what, and to share competences.
And I think this is some of the sentiments we've talked about in backstage, right, Jānis?
Yes, certainly. So, as I said already in my intro, it's not just me; it's the team, and human resource that we have is one of the best. And I've seen it again and again. Our 3D printing engineers can match up to anybody out there that we meet, in our competitors or clients. But I would like to throw out this idea. I mean, Latvia is so small that the regulation that we have here could be easily adapted to any needs. Let's take an example for prosthetics. So EU sees every single country the same, right? So it's part of the EU, European Union. So imagine if Latvia would say, every 10th person in this room would say, agree to make a regulation here locally that would allow for 3D printed prosthetics to be used. That would make a testbed, a sandbox, a perfect opportunity for anybody who works in this field to come and test their products here in Latvia. The same could apply for automated driving and all that. So right now I see it as a sandbox for ourselves, of course, as well. The regulation is not there yet, but there is a possibility. And certainly this is because Latvia is small. It has the human capital, and it has a lot of technology that we take for granted. It's the internet, it's the 3D printers that we have, it's 5G and 4G technologies that we have all around, so we take them for granted, but they're here.
So the technology is there, the talent is there,
yeah.
And maybe Liene, you can talk a little bit about you're in the industry of putting people together and knowledge together and putting all these pieces and bits and pieces together to make them, function together.
Yeah, I would say it's a big challenge. It's not a secret, but again, you can face the challenge if you do something. And by doing, I mean also make a big table when you can bring these people together and ask the question how we can do it better, not make some assumptions about what's the best for this industry or what's best for academia or what's best for science and so on. So try to make this dialogue an open conversation and be honest with ourselves that what's work, what's not work, and change and be flexible again. And I believe this flexibility is a huge asset of the Latvia, because if you think about in history, we are really flexible. We are basically survivors. And and it's really asset. And you see the people, if you think about yourself, how many times you have changed your work or your professional life. So we can do everything. Just give some moment, 1 week, and we will be able to be a little bit accountant, a little bit that, a little bit that. And this, I believe, is a big asset of Latvia, the possibility to be flexible, to learn fast, to adapt fast, and we need to use that just without competing with each other. But again, it's about the small country that we, see this competitor maybe to be more trustable for each other, make this network strong as Latvia, as a community.
Right. So we started the conversation about the local ecosystem here in Latvia, and we're all here in the business of creating social impact or making a better future using these technologies. So my question for all of you is, I'd like to hear what are your thoughts in terms of creating 10x impact. So beyond, how do you scale this so that you're creating a much larger impact than, beyond the borders of Latvia? What are your thoughts on that? How do you build upon that kind of scalability globally? Tough questions.
Not that tough.
I could start. I believe if you think about globally, it's already now. It's nothing about the future. It's basically now. And if you want to survive, again, your business or whatever you do, you need to be global. And it's, again, the mindset, because go out there, you should just a little bit get in flow and trust to the flow and trust to the people and make decision fast, because you know the bad idea is on the sofa. So you sit on the sofa, think about your idea, think it's brilliant. It's a bad idea because you don't do nothing about it. So that's why I believe it's based on action. Everything is based on action. So go out, talk with the people, connect with the people, and just sell your idea, and that's it.
Any?
Yeah, I guess I could comment. I mean, you saw already in my intro presentation that there was a map of dots with 3D printers around Europe. At some point, we understood that growing doesn't not only mean buying machines for ourselves every single time we need an extra machine. It actually means of utilizing what's available. So we started finding these companies around Europe that have machines sitting idle, and we started utilizing them. So we are only taking care of the practical stuff, of the IP creation, of the value creation in the engineering process, but using the machines wherever they are, which means basically we have the scalability, which is endless as far as the infrastructure goes that's available across globe.
So I hear agility, I hear crowdsourcing, I hear I love this quote by Joy Ito, which you have reminded me of, which is doing is the best type of thinking. So many times often we think and think and think and think instead of like actionable, implementable plans, and we waste opportunities. Ideas actually are meaningless when we've heard about this many times over. So I think when we're talking about technologies, we talk about the better future. There are a lot of discourse happening. I talked about it in my talk, and so did Mr. Tower. And my question is, you know, currently there are two camps, right? You have on one hand, you have people like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, the late Stephen Hawking even, that talked about how, oh, you know, AI is scary. They're going to take away our jobs. They're going to, you know, ruin, you know, the future. And then you have the other camp of like Zuckerberg and Andrew and even Ray Kurzweil that talks about, oh, let's all be cyborgs now. You know? Where are you guys in this spectrum of the good and the bad of technologies altering our future? Probably starting from you, coming from life sciences.
Actually, from life sciences, there are also the questions, how far can we go into modifying a living systems and modifying our universal code? That's actually not what our company is doing. We don't do any genetic modifications, but still, what can we do with the cells, the living organisms? But I think that in both cases, and in an example you mentioned, the main thing is to find the balance and to keep in mind all the ethical things or the legal things. It's very important, especially for the business, just not to go break down and test everything, but you have to, still on the background, you have to keep knowledge about this legal things, about ethical things to be successful. But definitely in life sciences, I'm not scared about the technologies. I'm not scared about the synthetic biology, and I see the future in that. That actually, as I mentioned in my talk, is these technologies, ability to use biological systems and organisms for our needs is actually the future. That's the only way that the futurologists are saying that how we can tackle the problems with food scarcity, alternative protein sources. We know that meat for burgers are now cultivated in bioreactors, and I see it in a couple of years that we'll be able to buy it in the supermarket, because it's more sustainable. Absolutely. It does not require depletion of natural resources, so it's not bad. We have to change, and we have to change actually society's thinking. So a big part of daily activities of entrepreneur, I'm kind of lagging behind in that, and failing is also to communicate with society, to educate them, because if you do not talk, then many things are misunderstood, and that's actually where the problems arise.
I absolutely agree. So there's a lot of discussion about, you know, technology being in this black box. So probably very relevant to what you guys are doing as well. In AI, people are very fearful because they simply don't understand the potential of how it could affect us. So how do you address this communication, this kind of a way for the larger public to understand what this technology represents? For both of you.
Yeah, let me probably try to answer this. I have to be honest, I've been more than once asked if the stuff we are doing is going to replace humans in long term. I have, of course, my own take on that, and my own take on that is that history has shown that there have been already a lot of inventions which have changed things. I mean, one of the good examples I think is rather recent is containers, right? So that put a lot of people out of jobs and and whole areas of ports had to be redesigned to work for something else. So technology has always been there to help people. I think it's the same stories as long as we get to Terminator stage. So that should be there anyway. And I don't think we are close to that yet, to be honest as well. I have maybe a different opinion on this. The other thing, of course, is that it's same as democracy. Yeah. It helps majority of people. And of course, there's always going to be somebody who's going to be individually left behind. And these are the decisions which happen. There is some impact. Of course, we can do as much as we can by social programs, something like this, to help those people. But there, of course, are certain jobs and certain things which will change. And I don't think there's anything much you can do about this kind of progress unless you're ready to go back. But of course, there's always going to be these two fronts. I'm not sure, but I think almost all the guys over here are on the one side of the front in one way or another. I have to be honest. I might be wrong, but I don't know. But,
I'm in the middle.
I could actually add that according to World Health Organization, there are about 110 million people who will need prosthetics and orthotics this year, but only 40 million will get them. That means 70 million people will not get the prosthetic they need. And that cannot be solved just by increasing the amount of specialists we have in the field. Yeah. AI and smart software, something like what we have built, is actually going to help to make the existing specialists more effective to cater to that need. And right now there's about 40,000 people who are missing from this industry. So there is no way that education system can catch up with this need. So AI is going to help us to reach those people who need something like that without sacrificing any jobs.
Or creating new jobs that are more relevant to humans in general. What about disparity? Do you guys think that technology is increasingly pulling apart different social class, developing countries versus non-developing countries? Do you think that is it helping, or is it actually dividing even further our society of tomorrow, or even today?
Like can do this in turn. So
thank you.
Sorry.
Also, we discussed some hours before. I believe at the moment there is some bubble around the innovations. So we innovate for the people who already is fine. So they are already well with their life. Yeah. And this is like big question, because I'm not sure about this research, but if it's true that only 7% of the population of people have roof, they are safe, they have clean water, and they earn more than $2 per hour, so then we innovate for whom? For these 7% of the population. And I believe the innovation should be with the reason. We don't need to forget about that nations that need help. And if we have resources, human resources, I think about human capital, know-how, technologies, everything, we should expand to the places where it's needed. And it's not, again, about the business, how you mentioned about this big train. It's about why you're doing and this value that you bring out there, and not think about our bubble. Because in bubble, I believe everything is quite fine.
Yeah, if I can, let me just add on this. Yeah, apart from the research part, I think there's one more thing which you should understand as well. And one of the things technology is helping with is actually speed of exchange of information. Mm-hmm. And that's not AI, that's something which we've done for the last 50, 60 or however many years. And I think one of the things about this is that it should help to bridge the gap. Of course, the innovations are different. So innovations which you talk about in developed nations, our willingness to have health monitors on the wrists and stuff like that, that's one area of development, that's one part. At the same time, there's also development also for the other parts of the world as well. The main thing is if the gap is filling up fast enough. So that, I think, is the most relevant question. I have a feeling it does. I don't have the numbers to prove it, but I have also, based on the partnerships we have, for example, with other people who are doing things, for example, in Africa, other countries, I have a feeling that, yes, there is a willingness to put some technology, not as advanced as we perhaps would use here, but to put there as well, to improve these lives as well. But that's just my take.
Yeah, absolutely. What about in the manufacturing side of things, where you're migrating from, I talked a little bit about the, industrial revolution and the mass production and stuff, and how does that migrate into when you talked about 3D printing as the technologies to leverage, access for these type of hardwares?
We can talk a lot about Industry 4.0, but I think in several sectors, especially in Latvia, we haven't reached the 3.0 yet. But the point here is that this technology is still empowered by people. So if we talk about manufacturing something with 3D printers, there's about 90% of the work that goes into creating the 3D model, the IP, and the engineering work, and then only 10% of what is the 3D printer, the actual technology. So if you don't concentrate on the first 90%, it's never going to happen as a reliable manufacturing process. But I would like to say this. I mean, countries are not big and small anymore. They're fast or slow. And in this sense, Latvia has a chance to become a real hub for intelligent people making IP, for 3D models, for manufacturing with 3D printers or anything else, meaning that right now we can create all the IP here and send it out to decentralized manufacturing anywhere in the world. And this is already happening right now with our company.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. So this leads to my next question. So a lot of what we do, we're especially in life sciences, not to focus on you, but a lot also has to do with these other technologies. It's the question of ethics and morality. So I'd like to know whose responsibility is this? Who is writing this next code of conduct of how we should apply these technologies? Is it the government? Is it the citizens? Is it the company? Is it, and how do we navigate between these very complex systems of, not to make everyone happy, but at least to satisfy what the answers are we're searching for in the future? So maybe we can start with you.
So actually, I think the big role in this is for the community, and especially in the life sciences, there are now communities of biohackers, there are like communities of people involved in startups in different fields of biotech. That's, as I mentioned before, it's an importance of spreading the idea, because actually government, it cannot regulate the emerging technologies. They need more information and data, and that's actually our own responsibility to spread those ideas, to spread the information, to talk about those ethics, to determine ourselves within the community what we consider ethical and what's not ethical, what we should do and what we should not do. There have been several cases, like we heard in America, biohackers injecting CRISPR-Cas, like a therapeutics for them, and there was a death case. I see it as a kind of process, because I see biotechnology and life sciences now in the same stage where information and software technologies were some 20, 30 years ago. And DNA sequencing, DNA synthesis is becoming more cheaper and cheaper. It's more accessible to the people outside academia, and this biohacker community is that people in the garages, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates played around this computers and software technologies. Now actually people are starting to play around the biological systems and use DNA to program life. So we're in the very beginning, and it's our responsibility as a community to talk about those questions.
That's a great answer. Yeah. Do you want to add?
I would add that I believe this responsibility is shared by developer and end user. So it depends of the product, because if we think about defense products or safety products, responsibility is by government, so that they use in which moments, and who develop it, and they secure that everything is fine with technology. So I believe it's shared responsibility by two parties who develop that. It's depend of the process and who use that, and so it should be shared between these two parties.
So, and do you guys think that currently with what you guys are doing, is there already a conversation in the running between the government and maybe even corporations here, and with what you guys are doing, so that you guys are aligned in terms of this question of ethics and morale in the future?
Yeah, I think it probably depends a little bit on the level of maturity of things. And of course, as we all know, the move fast, break things approach probably works initially. As you become big enough, I mean, it might become an issue, as we can also observe. But I think it's a combination of things. It depends on technology, but still, it's very tricky for government to try to govern something which they're not aware of, or which has not been there for a long time. So always the policy lags behind. So, but there's another thing which I'm seeing, and it's a combination of two things I would like to say. So one of them which I notice is that a lot more ethical dilemmas are posed by people themselves who are working on things. So for example, in our team as well, I notice that sometimes people say, okay, maybe you shouldn't do this and or that, because people start thinking on their own. However, the second thing, of course, is that the community involvement is important, but it also has this backlash from certain events. And that, if something happens, then everybody's very concerned about this specific issue. And then in these points of time, we kind of lose often the general picture.
Yeah,
and
the greater good.
We try to legislate something, we try to control something, but it doesn't always work that way.
True. Do you have something to add? No? So to wrap it up, I wanted to ask this kind of very broad question. You guys will have a minute to answer it. How do you envision yourself and Latvia 10 years from now?
I think there will be more deep tech companies, I say it because it's, especially in life sciences, there are not a lot of startups and other companies trying to do some really disruptive things. It's growing, and I see that there will be a strong community of biotech startups here. I hope that this will be. I see myself that I would love to run my company within the 10 years, but most probably it will be turned into something more like there will be a different kind of products. But I'm passionate about biotechnology, about the capabilities to use this technology to make new products, to make new ways how to produce things we use in our everyday life. So I will be in the same field.
Very cool. Jānis?
I guess what I could add is that we have been working with schools and 3D printers. So last year alone, we introduced 3D printing to. We introduced 40 printers to the schools in Latvia, and what I see coming out of that is that there is a new generation of students who understand 3D printing technologies, but who understand 3D in general. So we have 3D going into VR, AR, 3D printing, mobile apps, and basically everywhere. And so we're going to have this new generation of people who are able to create with digital tools. And I hope in 10 years' time, we're going to be a much bigger power in the global stage as for talent that understands 3D printing. But not only that, I also think that, and I hope that Latvia will follow the suit of things like the startup law, which is one of the few laws that have been implemented in the European Union with the regulation type of initiatives, as I already mentioned. Maybe open up the regulation for 3D printed prosthetics, or for bioprinted organs, or for automated driving, to make this not only just a sandbox for testing, but as an innovation hub for these technologies. And we have this possibility, and I hope that we're going to be at the top of it in 10 years.
Yes. What about you, Juris?
Yeah, so I'll probably start with going back. So as I mentioned initially, so we ended up in artificial intelligence, machine vision, a little bit before the hype started, by accident. So what I'm trying to say here is that technology is going to change. There's going to be new hype, whatever that is. I mean, if someone can predict it, perfect. That would be even better. But what I'd like to see anyway is I see the value in collaboration. I see the value in exchanging information. I see the value of bringing new ideas. So going to this, what I'm going with this to is I'd like to see Latvia as a hub of people coming from all over the place, exchanging ideas, exchanging technology. Which, whatever that would be at the point of time. And of course, from my perspective, I've been always happy to be involved with technology. And it has been changed. It has been changing throughout my life as well. So whatever the next idea is going to be, yeah, we will develop this one, and let's see where it takes us. So hopefully it's going to take us far away.
Finally, Liene?
I will continue with the optimistic. I believe that like 10 years, how much? Okay. So I believe in 10 years Latvia will find the focus on in the innovations that we do. We are too small country to do everything, so we need a focus. And if we will find a focus, and I believe there is one, at least one, so then it will bring more clear message to the globally why Latvia is a good hub, why I need to come here, why it's the best place to bring my innovations here. As now I believe we don't have such kind of focus in the communication, so it's a little bit hard to give this competitive advantage list of Latvia. But in 10 years, I believe there will be at least one, and Latvia will be in a global map with the strong point that we are the best on this one, and if I'm whatever, in which part of the world, I will come there because I can get what I want to bring my innovations out there. So this is one. And other part, I believe that, again, by 10 years, educations will change for sure, because there's new generation alpha is coming, and they're completely different, and we need to change. And third thing, that the science is not something scary. That for us it's very important. Science is not strange people in laboratories. They are just very clever, very ambitious people who want to discover new things and bring out there. So hopefully in 10 years the science will be more understandable, more interesting for the regular business people to bring out there. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I've learned tremendously. I'm hoping to come back next year and then, like, everything is 10x again and or 100x again. And thank you for joining us. And let's talk and continue the conversation later. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.